state today's date, your name, your birthday, and how long you've lived in Hernando County.
Okay, today's date is September the 17th, 2013. My name is Doyle Lee.
Your birthday?
It's April 4th, 1929.
And how long have you lived here in Hernando?
75 years. I came to Spring Lake when I was 9 years old.
Wow.
I'll soon be 85.
And so have you lived in the eastern part of the county your whole life?
Spring Lake, yeah.
Spring Lake, right in Spring Lake.
That's really the only part of the county.
Is it really?
Yeah, some say Lake Lindsay, some say Wiki-Wachee. The beautiful part of the county is Spring Lake.
And do you have any specific memories growing up that you really think represent how the way of life was back in that time, the 30s, 40s, before Spring Hill really popped?
Spring Lake was solid orange grove. The mountains and the Daniels, all of Spring Lake proper, all around Spring Lake was solid orange grove.
And was that what most of the people did for work?
Well, yeah, primarily, but my father-in-law, who practically raised me, had a big ranch at Spring Lake.
Oh, okay.
What is now Rolling Acres subdivision. Mm-hmm. That was all Wernicke's ranch, called Rolling Acres Ranch.
How many people worked on the ranch, would you say?
At the time, it depended on what was being grown at the time. But a lot of the local kids worked there on weekends and after school. And it was bored them a long time. It was a lot of people, and other times it was just two of us. 1963 was a lot more water than what we've got now.
I heard there was a bit of an overflow.
They think we've got a lot of water now. In 1963, Hernando County had lots of water. Masaryktown flooded out, it killed all the chickens. Spring Lake broke out and all the water went down the hill.
Can you describe what happened when Spring Lake overflowed? Because I've heard that story, but the camera hasn't, so.
Yeah. At that time, I was working with Wacoochee Electric. I worked with Wacoochee Electric 33 years.
Wow.
But, and my wife worked at Hernando State Bank at that time, which is now SunTrust. We went to work and somebody said, "Did you hear Spring Lake run down the hill and broke out?" No. So we went up there and I think we picked up about 2 big wash tubs full of fish. They had all run out in Wayne Thomas's cow pasture back then.
Oh my gosh.
It didn't drain completely out. There was still a little bit of lake left. But,
do you know what caused it to overflow? Was it strictly rain or was there a big hurricane or anything?
No, it was a big rainy season. It's kind of a long story, but the lake had a natural drainage on the east side through a pipe under the road. The road went all the way around the lake.
Right.
And it was a hard road. Mr. Luther Harple, who's been dead for a number of years, owned a grove on the east side. And the water coming through that pipe was washing a big gully down through his grove, so he stopped up the pipe. And the lake continued to rise, and the pressure broke that whole road out just at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, no. Well, were any houses damaged?
No, but there's a big house, and it's a beautiful house on the far side of Spring Lake. That house been there for years. And people by the name of Callahan lived there. Mr. Callahan had died, but Miss Callahan was there by herself. And in the middle of the night, she woke up, the house was shaking. And this is a well-built 2-story house.
Wow.
Well, all she could think about was an earthquake, but it kept shaking.
Was it the water rushing?
The water,
just
yeah.
The water
when you
rushing?
turn all that water loose, it's like a huge river.
All of a sudden?
And it was going right down beside the house.
Oh, she's so lucky.
It like maybe 300 yards from the house where it broke out. If you ever go out that way, when you go around the east side, you can see the huge ravine He washed about half his orange grove down the hill.
Oh, no. And what was the reaction? Do you remember as soon as you got the word? I mean, were people rushing down there? Was it?
Oh yeah, it was unbelievable. They said, can't do that. See, Spring Lake is kind of a unique lake. Anywhere you leave Spring Lake, you go downhill. It's like a volcano. See, back then there was no such thing as a freezer.
Right. So
they had, some people had a freezer, but very few people had freezers. They had a locker plant uptown here, a freezer locker plant you could rent.
Really? What? Can you describe that a little more? I've never even heard of that.
Never heard of it. Well, it had 2 locker plants.
What was the procedure to rent a locker there?
Just rent it. They had 2 different size lockers. You could put a whole cow in one, or you could get one that was just put a couple of weeks supply of food. But Ella Maud Logan run it. She had a locker plant right uptown here.
Whereabouts? Do you remember?
On Main Street. Do you know where the printing office is? Second block down.
Second block down on the right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was the freezer plant.
Now, was that something that was a luxury that only people with a little bit of money was able to rent a locker, or was it
a lot of people.
commonplace?
It was economical to use. I don't remember what the price was, but something like $2 a month or something like that.
Wow.
Of course, $5 you could buy a whole locker full of meat too.
Right.
But
right.
anyway, then when they went out of business, Ed Cook had a locker plant down by the football field.
What year? Do you remember the time period? What decade, anyway, that would have been?
Well, it was all during World War II.
Okay.
Ed Cook put his locker plant in. It was after World War II, probably in the early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And it went for a number of years. But by then, everybody could go up to weeks and buy a deep freeze.
Do you remember how many kids were in the high school at that time? What year did you graduate? Do you remember?
48.
48. Do you remember how large the class was?
I think we had 38 in class.
38. Was your wife in the same class as you?
No, she was in 1951.
Oh, okay. Wow. So, do you have fond memories of high school back during that time?
Had a lot of fun. Got in a lot of trouble too. Back in the days when we would skip school and go skinny dipping in Wikiwachi.
Wikiwachi?
You know what skinny dipping is?
I know what skinny dipping is.
Back then, the only thing on the west side of the county, and I'm talking about from outside out here at the edge of town, the only thing on the west side of the county, you left Brooksville, there was a fire tower. That's out, where Western Way is, where
Yes.
the Beacon Theater.
Yes.
There's a fire tower behind Beacon Theater. That's been there ever since I was a kid. That was the only thing from there to Wikiwachi. Wikiwachi was nothing there. Back before my time, there was a hotel there, but that was gone before I ever came. When you left Wikiwachi, there was nothing until you got to Bayport.
Wow. Wow.
And the only thing on the coast really to go see was Bayport and Arapika. All of Spring Hill, there was nothing but people fox hunted out there. Sometimes you had to walk. It takes 2 hours and 40 minutes to walk to Spring Lake.
Is that right? From uptown here?
In the middle of the night.
2 hours and 40 minutes?
That's walking pretty good clip.
Really?
And,
did you do that often?
Well, we're a little bit on the stupid side. The Dixie Theater was the only place in town. You know where the Dixie Theater was?
Yes.
They'd have midnight movies. It'd be Frankenstein or something like that.
Right.
And all the Brooksville mail came from Trilby on the train.
Okay.
And Atticus Ramsey lived down here on Lemon Street. His job to go to Trilby twice a day and get the mail off the train and bring to Brooksville. Well, at midnight, he went to Trilby. Then he went at noon noon and midnight.
Wow. Driving to Trilby?
Yeah. And he would tell us boys out at Spring Lake, he said, if you all will be out in front of the theater at midnight, I'll give you a ride to Spring Lake.
Nice.
Well, we were so stupid, the movie wouldn't quite be over, and we'd sit there 10 or 15 minutes after midnight. Come out and he'd already gone by.
Oh.
So you had to walk to Spring Lake.
Oh no.
And believe it or not, you could walk all the way to Spring Lake and not see one car. You went to Spring Lake from Brooksville, you had to go down to Summit Road, down into Colored Town, and go through Colored Town out by the cemetery. And the old part of the road goes on and off all the way out to Spring Lake.
Did 50 run right next to the old cemetery
No,
originally?
50 runs right where it is now.
Oh, okay. I see.
It wasn't called 50 then. It was a county road.
Okay.
And going to Webster was a job because you had to go out and go. Well, Webster wasn't so bad, but you went to Bushnell or like that, you had to wind all the way around St. Catherine and all down in there to get there.
When school was out, when high school was out, I know you said you went to the Dixie Theater for fun and everything, but do you have any specific memories as you were growing up of the types of things you really did for enjoyment?
Oh yeah, we hunted and fished all the time.
Where at?
Spring Lake, Wekiwachi Swamp. We deer hunted at Lemon Grove and Wall Creek.
Did you hunt with rifles?
Yeah, shotgun, hand rifle, 30-30 Marlin or Winchester was real popular then, and a 12-gauge shotgun, that was what everybody used. Of course, then they come in with all sorts of newer stuff later. But yeah, all the people, the Springsteads and the, oh gosh, just Daniels.
Everybody out?
Everybody hunted down there. And then World War II was something else we used to, one of the fun things was an airplane spotting on top of the courthouse.
So what did you do?
Well, everything was dark. The town was dark. No street lights, no nothing. And I take it back. You could see enough light to walk around, but not lit up like it is now. And the courthouse and all over the state, they had volunteer aircraft spotters.
Really?
And they had huge spotlights. Tampa had huge spotlights. When I say a huge spotlight, like a 8-foot in diameter.
Wow. Okay.
And they'd light an airplane up, they'd just be a silver speck going across.
And why did they do that?
Well, what we call national defense now, but
that was the first line of defense.
It was to be prepared, and you had a book that had all every kind of Japanese and German plane you could think of that they made.
Wow. Okay.
Plus all the American planes. But we never saw Japanese and German planes. They never got here. But B-17 was a big plane. Matter of fact, Brooksville Air Base was B-17s. And so you had to call Tampa to Drew Field, which is now Tampa International, but Drew Field back then.
Okay.
And you'd have to say, tell them that you had binoculars. The B-17 heading north, and approximately 2,000 feet. And you see it for something else. There were very few airliners, not like you have now. Everything was propeller driven. It was no jets.
Right.
But you reported it, and they logged everything in.
Wow. Now was that frightening? Just the idea that there should be somebody on the courthouse of Brooksville looking out for enemy planes. It was fun.
A lot of girls got kissed on top of the courthouse.
I bet they
Times were different then. Everybody was patriotic. It was a war effort. It was different, just a different climate than it is now.
So you feel like, at that time, people living in Brooksville really felt like they were playing their part in contributing to supporting that. Any memories you might have of something that happened at any point that helped shape the county as it is today?
Well, Yeah. Uh, that was my early, when Spring Hill started, that was my very early days of being with Coochie Electric.
Do you remember about what year that was?
That was in 69, 68.
Mm-hmm.
And they told us to take a truckload of poles down on 19 to where they were grading the street in, and we call it Spring Hill. And I remember making a comment, what, they lost their mind? I said, nobody will ever live out here. Nothing but sand spurs and scrub oak. Nobody will ever live out here in these sand hills. But I was completely wrong. What is now Spring Hill Drive, we set the first poles, and I said, man, these poles will rot down before anybody ever builds out there.
And what were y'all thinking over here on the east side of the county as that was developing?
Well, we used to say that if you cross US 41, you have to have a passport. You're going into a foreign country. It was all completely different then. When you talked about Hernando County, you talked about Masaryktown, little place Garden Grove down here, Spring Lake, Lake Lindsay, Istachatta, and Oakland. That was it.
That was it.
Wasn't any, when you left one without the other, it was nothing but cow pasture. Brooksville had 4 school buses.
4?
Hernando County had 4 school buses, and they were all paid for.
Wow. Go figure.
Yeah.
4 only, and that. So, did you take the bus to school?
Oh yeah.
What?
You get on at Spring Lake, and you go all the way out to Croom, come back in Croom Road past what is now the Country Club. That was a rock mine then.
Went all the way out around there to pick everybody up?
Yeah, and they'd run it backwards in the afternoon. If you got on first if you was first one on, you was the last one that afternoon. They'd run the bus backwards. So this man I was talking about, Atticus Ramsey, he owned and drove our school bus. A man by the name of Mr. French and later Mr. Wilson bought the bus and owned it. They had a bus that went to Spring Lake. They had a bus that went out to the coast to Bayport and out there, and they had a bus that went to Istachatta and Moulton. And then they had a spare bus that, in case one broke down.
Wow. How long was the bus ride if you were on the long route?
Oh man, an hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
See, they brakes, they did not have hydraulic or air brakes then. And they had mechanical brakes. And I can remember when I'd get on, my job was to sit on a milk crate. You know what a milk crate is?
Yeah. Yes.
And Mr. Amity said, pull the brake. He'd reach down and pull the brake like that.
Oh, really? Wow. Did you have an alarm clock to wake up in the morning?
Not really. Everybody got up before daylight and went to bed right after dark.
How did you know how to wake up? I've always
Well,
wondered that.
let me tell you. And I think everybody's that way. For years, I was district manager in Crystal River for Whistler Coochie and district manager in Brooksville for Crystal River.
Oh.
In Crystal River, I'd get up at 4:30 every morning.
Wow.
Take me a quick shower and jump in the car and go to Crystal River. And it'd be 7:30 and 8 o'clock before I get home at night. And even today, if I go to bed and say I think I'll get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go fishing, I'll wake up about 10 minutes to 5.
Really? You just naturally.
It's a built-in alarm clock, and the old timers pretty well operated that way. And Brooksville had all brick streets. All the streets in Brooksville were brick.
A brick.
And they're still there.
Yes. Right to the side here.
Yeah.
I would drive on them and they don't seem as smooth as the pavement, but they're charming.
They've been there for you back in the 20s. But, but all around the courthouse is brick. Brooksville Avenue, which is still brick. It wasn't an easy time, it was a hard time because like transportation, World War II come along in that there, which was, people don't even know what. The women used to buy cow feed and can't remember the name of the company in Tampa, but they put cow feed in 100-pound sacks to make dresses out of.
Really?
Yeah, they have blue flowers, pink flowers, and you buy a sack of feed. Well, give me the pink one and the blue one, and they'd have different things on.
Really?
And all the boys come to school with flour sack shirts. The girl had flour feed sack dresses.
And they really they wore them
Well,
regularly?
And most all the girls could sew. They had a home ec department where they taught them how to all to sew,
So they would actually
how to
make,
cook.
right?
Right. Necessity was different. Hernando County has the potential to be a big industrial place because it's the proximity between Tampa and Orlando and Ocala is so close.
Perfect.
It's sitting in a perfect place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.